Hey guys, I'm Rachel. Welcome back to Oxheart Gardening. And today's garden tour is going to be a little different. It has been raining like almost nonstop. I think this is like day 4 or 5 now here, which is kind of unusual. It's not been like torrential, but it's been pretty consistently cloudy and foggy and drizzly and sometimes just straight up raining. So we've gotten a lot of water. It's cooled off quite a bit, and it is not stopping anytime soon. We have like an 80% chance of rain over the next like 4 or 5 days going forward as well. So because it's so cold and wet outside, and because there hasn't been a lot of sun for things to grow, we're going to do a very quick tour of the garden outside, and then I'm going to bring you guys inside and kind of catch up with you about what my food storage situation is looking like, how what I grew this past summer got put up, how much of it I have left as we're going towards thinking about spring, and how much of everything needs to get planted for next year. Little Miss Kata lost her collar again, but that means you can see her little white spot on her chest really well now. I've got my rain boots on. It is not currently raining. Fingers crossed it stays that way. And the first thing I see is my rain gauge, which is showing about 1.5 inches, and that is since yesterday. One of the main things I'm going to be looking for out here, since it has been raining so much, is potentially mushrooms coming up. So even though it has been rainy and kind of cool, it hasn't been that cold. We haven't got close to freezing in a couple of days now, and it looks like it won't get down too low for at least the next week. So that means that even though the plants aren't getting a lot of sun, they're also not going through a ton of frost damage either, which is really nice, especially as we'll see for the peas in a minute. Before all this rain, I planted a bunch of onion starts from Dixondale Farms. Most of them look pretty good. I see a couple over here that are like falling over, so I should probably work on standing those back up and giving them a little more dirt. I was pretty shallow with my planting because onions don't really need to be planted that deep, but I think I might have overcompensated in the wrong direction. So the peas, which took a lot of frost damage, are getting a break in here where it's not getting below freezing for a little bit. You can see this is frost damaged off. But the plants continue to survive, and you can see new growth coming in right here even now. So there's still hope for my peas yet. If y'all follow me on Instagram, you might have seen that I planted some more carrots the other day, right before all of this rain really started coming in. You can see the ones that I have going right now are looking pretty good, but no sprouts yet. It would be kind of early, except I did see some of the seeds sprouting before I planted them because I had soaked them in water. And this sheet is just mostly to cover, to keep cats from digging. This area is not able to be covered, but hopefully I will see some sprouting carrots in the next few days, especially with all of this rain. Keeping carrots damp long enough to germinate seems to be like one of my biggest issues, and with the fact that it's raining like literally every single day, and a lot of the seeds were sprouted before I planted them, I'm like this is gonna work, I hope. As y'all have seen, it so far has barely worked, so I am holding out hope, but also like I have my expectations set kind of low. Another thing to check on is this swale that I dug a while ago now to keep the rain that was sliding off of this hill from washing away all of the mulch on my garden, which was happening the first spring that I moved here. And I have not noticed this filling up, even with the amount of rain that we've had, which means it's been raining pretty slowly and not like just dumping 2 inches within an hour. But this has started filling up with leaf litter, and I have not like cleared it out or anything. I'm not even sure if that is like necessary right now. I'm kind of just winging it because I've never had a swale before now. Oh, also here at the front, these, which I think are irises that came up because it was cold and then warm again, and are still actually doing pretty okay. We'll see if they try to bloom or not, but they actually came up all the way along the row. Oh man, my fingers are so cold. It's like 50 something outside. My fingers are still freezing. All right, it's kind of dim in here, but you can see on my shelves I've got jars of food. We've got pickles, green salsa, dried mint, tomato sauce, and then salsa over on the right. That is pickled jalapenos over there. I did not grow that pumpkin. And then we've got jam and a little bit more salsa up there. The jam I made, but I did not grow the berries for that. My partner and I went and picked berries and decided to do some practice jam making because hopefully next year I will have the berries to do it. And then on the other side in my messy kitchen, I still have all of this garlic, and dried herbs are kind of always there. And then more garlic and dried herbs. A few onions in the bag, and I've got a few onions here and still some hanging on the wall here. As y'all have seen, a lot of my onions did start sprouting. These ones haven't yet, but that I should use them up imminently because they likely will, or they will start rotting, which I've seen happen to a couple of them. So I definitely did not use up or store all my onions fast enough, and I've still got like one more big preserving thing to do very soon with that. And then under here I have sweet potatoes, and regular potatoes, although these you can see I've started sprouting quite a lot. It's kind of early. I wish they would stop, but I want to save these for seed potatoes at this point, and I might move them somewhere cooler so that they kind of like slow down on this whole thing, because otherwise they might just rot themselves. Alright, so before I talk about my thoughts on how much food that is and how much I have left versus what I want to plant, I do have something exciting to show you guys. These came in the mail yesterday, and I've been waiting on these for like months now. There was a problem with me getting them at first. But I have stickers. These stickers are exclusive to my Patreon, and you can earn them at any tier. Every 3 months you'll be shipped a new sticker. And I have 4 designs here that I'm going to show you, designed by my friend Casey. She is a graphic designer, and the goal is over time to feature multiple artists all doing things in their own style, just like Jess over at Roots and Refuge has done. I think that's a beautiful idea, and giving these artists a chance to like do something fun but also make some passive income, as they're getting kickbacks from you guys subscribing to my Patreon. So I wanted to show off some of these designs to you guys. This one is some wine glasses over the top of a sunflower that I actually grew. This is for the Tipsy garden tours that I do every year. This one I think is absolutely adorable. This is Kada in one of my baskets full of vegetables. This one I have been told looks nice, but I feel self-conscious about because it is me. That is me kind of juggling all very real produce that I've grown. But my favorite is this one, which, if you haven't heard the story, we were playing a game where you design like funny t-shirts with slogans, and you have to kind of work together as a group to caption each other's little silly drawings. And I drew a little sprout, and somebody else captioned it with "this isn't even my final form." And I actually just really fell in love with that whole concept because a little sprout has so much power. It is tiny but mighty. And so we did a variation on that design. This isn't even my final form. This is my favorite, and it will be going on my water bottle pretty much immediately. So in addition to the stickers on my Patreon, I also do have a Patreon exclusive Discord group. If you haven't heard of Discord, it's just another form of social media, but it's really, really good at getting groups of people together to discuss things. And it's not so much here's what so-and-so shared. It is like a conversation between everybody who is in the Discord. So that is available on my Patreon. And for the top tier donators, I do a monthly live stream call inside the Discord where you can join in. Recently it has been me and my friend Bay hanging out, chatting, and other people coming in and asking questions, and just like overall contributing to the conversation. Inside those live streams, there's the option to just get on voice and chat with us. There's also the option to just sit around and listen and absorb the conversation. You can text, chat in your own questions for us to answer. So I do that every month for top tier donations, but as I said before, every tier gets the stickers. And what I haven't mentioned before is that also everybody gets access to ad-free videos that get posted right directly on my Patreon page. Patreon launched a new feature recently where you can actually embed the video right there in the page. So I've been doing that. All of those videos show up. Sometimes they show up early on the Patreon. I won't say they always do, because sometimes I forget to get them up early, or sometimes I'm running behind and YouTube barely gets them on time anyway. But when I do have them ready early, I do post them to the Patreon early for all of my patrons to go ahead and watch. So all of that being said, the link is always below my videos if you want to take a closer look or join. I would really appreciate your support, and I am very excited for those of you who have already received stickers and those of you who will be receiving them very soon. And I am chatting with a new artist to make stickers after these ones have all been earned. Which brings me to another point. The stickers are earned on a time scale that is not repeatable. So if you join, say, next year, the stickers that you earn will be different than these. They will be the ones that are currently available. And so unless I go later and decide to make a merch shop, which I might do in like a year or two, but I can't promise that I will be able to do that. Essentially, if you're not earning the stickers now, they might never be available again. All right, so let's chat food. The thing that I have the most thoughts about at the moment is my garlic, because I just planted a bunch of garlic out and I had to think about how much do I want this year versus what I did last year. And seeing all the garlic that is currently still on my walls, I think I way overdid it last year. I did about half as much this year, which I think will be about right, because in addition to having plenty to use fresh that you saw on the walls, I have like jars and jars of it peeled in vinegar in the fridge, and I also have multiple jars of garlic powder that I made, and that's a lot of garlic, and I still have more than I need. I had plenty to plant out, which I was a little worried about when I was originally planting the first time, because I was like, well, I have to have enough to eat and seed stock for next year. But it turns out I don't actually need that much seed stock, so I'm having my garlic production. On the flip side of that, I am increasing my onion production. Even though I didn't get to all of my onions this year, I learned a couple of new techniques for preserving them, which previously I kind of thought, oh, well, I have to use them all fresh. Like, I cured them, they're storing, but like, you know, there's that timer to use them fresh. I've learned how to caramelize onions and freeze them. I've learned how to make French fried onions and then freeze those, which have been turning out really great. And so I feel like I could grow more onions knowing that I know how to preserve them, because looking at the time scale on which these ones are going bad, I I definitely need to have some frozen if I want to not be buying onions as I'm waiting for these ones to mature, because those starts that I just planted out are not going to be harvestable until like June or July at the earliest. So that's still like 7-8 months from now. And that would be a long time to go without onions. So I have dehydrated some of them, I have frozen some of them, and we are probably going to have no like actual fresh onion available after like a week or so from now, when I go ahead and process everything that you saw still hanging on the wall. Thinking about things like pickles and salsa, those are both things that I eat, but I don't eat a ton of. And I've been largely giving that produce away to friends and family, which if y'all have seen my dad, he always comments on these videos about the salsa. He loves my salsa, and I love being able to gift that to him because it makes him so happy and it's so easy to make a lot of. And it is really tasty. I like having it around, but the amount of salsa that I have is just like too much for me because I'm not the person eating salsa like all the time. And my partner loves salsa, but his favorite salsas are not like the ones that I make, and I haven't been able to replicate his favorite salsas. So while he will eat my homemade salsa, it's not his favorite. So it's much better served being eaten by me or my dad or my friends. And it's the same with the pickles. So I think the production of salsa should probably be lower next year. I also do have a fair bit of tomato sauce up there, which I have not been going through as fast because last year I didn't have very much and I felt like I had to really conserve it. But there have been a lot of instances where I have used store-bought canned tomato sauce for stuff, and I've been saving that for stuff where it can really shine as like a main ingredient, such as homemade pizza. But seeing how much of it I have left, I could probably start putting it into things like curries that I've been using the canned tomato sauce for. And also thinking about that, the amount of tomatoes that go into sauce is large. And I could potentially grow even more tomatoes and make like a small amount more sauce with more tomatoes, and also more of the salsa tomatoes going into sauce, which is probably the kind of trade-off that I'll do next year. I also tried really hard this year to figure out how to dehydrate tomatoes and make jarred dehydrated tomatoes in oil. And that has been a struggle because it's not as easy as just putting your tomatoes in the dehydrator. Those tomatoes that you get from the store are actually just ever so slightly fermented. And it gives them a real depth of flavor that you don't get if you just have dehydrator onions. So I still don't know the answer to that, apart from like literally sun drying them in the middle of summer, which by the time I figured out that I wanted to try that, it was not the height of summer and not dry enough or hot enough for that anymore. So that'll be something I'll be trying again next year. And if I ever get that right, I would like to devote a lot of my tomatoes to that. Hot peppers is another big thing that I need to consider what I'm doing for next year. I have those jars of pickled peppers, but there's actually still a bunch in my fridge and in my freezer that I haven't done anything with, and there's a lot of them. I've already been making Tabasco sauce, so I have like the hot sauce that I want. I don't eat a ton of other hot sauces, so I don't need to take all of these peppers that I have left over and put them into a hot sauce. I wonder if maybe I need to decrease the amount of hot peppers I'm growing overall. I love having the variety, but hot pepper plants tend to be pretty productive, and so even just having 1 or 2 plants, like I would probably not plant less than 2 just to have like a fail-safe if something happens to one of them and they die, and I can still have that variety. But that ends up with a lot of peppers, and with all the different kinds that I want to have, and having 2 plants of each at least, that's just a lot of hot peppers. So I haven't figured out like a really good way to continue going through them, even though I feel like I eat a fair amount of hot peppers. I'm putting them, like I said, in curries. I've pickled them. We put them in a burrito recipe. And I made all my Tabasco peppers into hot sauce. I threw a ton of them into the salsa when I was making salsa. There's still so many left over. I could potentially give up some of the variety in order to have a more reasonable amount of food, or I could find better ways to give away my excess. But there does need to be something done because a lot of my peppers did go to waste, not to mention the ones that I still haven't done anything with that could potentially sit there long enough to go bad as well. I almost forgot to show you guys all of my beans. These are from the purple beans and these are from the noodle beans. This is actually some still from last year that I didn't use up, as well as this year's. I am very happy with the amount of beans that I grew this year, especially when it comes to the purple pole beans. There was 3 plants. I've said this so many times. There was only 3 plants, but they were each so prolific. Like, I got this entire thing of dried beans off of them, and I had still so many fresh beans that I struggled to go through them. I froze some, made a green bean casserole with them for Thanksgiving. But that is like the perfect amount of beans. I can't really imagine having more than that. That sounds insane unless I have a lot of time or help to do stuff like dried beans with them, or I have a lot of time to do frozen green beans with them. Like, okay, now that I'm talking about it, maybe I could have a few more, but I am like super happy with the amount that I had, and if I never have more than that, that will still be plenty for me and my needs. And I almost forgot to talk about the corn. Every time I look around my house, I see more food. Not a bad thing, but this is dried corn. It is red except for this one that just had to be different. And I've been using this stuff as popcorn / decoration. I think this is probably the right amount of corn for me because I'm not eating it fresh. I am mostly just interested in popcorn, so I will probably grow again about this amount of corn. Alrighty guys, that is all from me today. Hopefully you found that really informative. I talked a lot about what I have done and not really a lot about what I would recommend people do, but like, I just hope that you can look at my thought process and then go through that for yourself and use that and the things that I think about to inform the way that you think about what you are planting for the spring. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy gardening.